All right, everybody, welcome to I Cannot Believe It. We are on PL session number 54, and we have our very own Joe Miller with us. It's always fun to have someone in-house present and share. So, Joe, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Chelsea and Kelly. So the presentation today, as you can see, is called From Worst to First, How a Simple Check-in Form Accelerated Student Growth and Helped Build Relationships. So this is something that I actually started this past school year. So I'm going to kind of give you some background on it. And then if anybody in the district at the end of this wants any help in creating your own check-in form, if you're interested in it, feel free to just ask me, shoot me an email or call over, and I'm happy to help you build one. So a little background on this. So I am kind of obsessed with data, probably more than most English teachers are. So I have like a data wall in my classroom where the classes compete against each other. All of my students have individual data trackers that they keep where they're tracking their own data and growth. And so I'm just like really into it. I use it to motivate. I use it to celebrate. I use it for a lot of different reasons. So when I was looking through this, the Teacher of the Year thing that happened for me, I got an opportunity to do an action research project with the chair of the education department at Cleveland State University. His name is Dr. Bobach. And I kind of told him what I did in my classroom. And he kind of right away knew a piece that I was missing. And we worked together to build it. So just a little bit like terms you need to know here. So when we're talking about assessment, you can talk about formative or summative assessment. We're talking about formative assessment here. So it's ongoing. It's not final. Sometimes it's not even for a grade. Summative is going to be maybe at the end of a unit or a quarter or a semester. So we're not talking about the test at the end of the unit. We're talking about assessing throughout the quarter or the semester or whatever it may be. However, kind of the thing that I was missing is when you talk about formative assessment, there's actually formal formative assessment, which I use a lot of, where I actually have my kids take a short quiz and then track their data on the quiz. But I was really missing informal formative assessment. And I know a lot of people use this all the time. They do exit tickets and they do little surveys and things like that. But I really wasn't doing a lot of it in my classroom. And right away, Dr. Bobach at Cleveland State was like, you gotta do something before you give them these more formal formative assessments. And a little bit of like research behind this, you can see, I'm not going to read this whole thing to you, but you can see that if you only use formal assessment, you are collecting data all the time, but there's no room for things that like observation notes and samples that a number or a grade can't evaluate. So it was really important that I added this. So a little background information on how I completed this. So I have 5 English 10 classes over here at Port Clinton High School, and we're going to call them classes A, B, C, D, and E. All 3 of them had taken the same 3 CFAs, which is a fancy term for like a quiz, common formative assessment, this school year in the first quarter, I believe it was. And the average scores on those for Class A was a 67.7%. And the combined class average for the rest of my classes, B through E, was a 71.9%. So I actually chose Class A because they were my lowest performing class. So they were the one that I chose here to use this check-in form. So the process for the rest of the school year was going to be through March of this year, Class A would get a check-in form before each CFA, before each quiz, to reflect on their learning. Classes B through E, the other classes, would not receive the form. And you can see it in red. The purpose was to determine if this added layer of informal formative assessment positively impacted student learning. So it wasn't another quiz. It was not another formal assessment. It was like this Google form that I put together to check in and gauge their understanding before they actually took the quiz that would go in for a grade. So Class A would do that. The other classes wouldn't. What did these questions look like on the Google check-in form? Well, here's the results from my first check-in form. For CFA number 4, which was over conflict and plot, you can see their responses here. Do you feel you understand the skills that will be assessed on the assessment, the CFA? 72.7 said yes. 27.3% said no. So that's the first question I asked on each check-in form. Do you feel confident in your ability to write a multi-paragraph essay? Because they had to do that on this particular assessment. 72.7% yes, 27.3% no. Which of the following resources will you use during the CFA? So I allow them to use certain resources, and I ask for their to honestly tell me which ones they would use. So a lot of them said they use a preparation guide. All of them said they use an example essay, and some of them said they would use the essay rubric. We have a built-in intervention time during the school day called prime time. And so I asked them if they want me to request them to provide some extra help and guidance before they take the assessment. And you can see that 45.5% of them chose to attend prime time, and 54.5% said no. So again, I kind of gave them the option to do this. I wanted them to take control. And if they did need help, say they needed help. And then, would you like me to email you any of these additional resources? So in each form, I would offer some extra help and support. So for example, they could have a transitional strategies guide. That would be like using, like, instead of saying next, here's a bunch of other like furthermore and moreover, better ways to say those. They could get the audio for the text on the assessment, and they could get an additional example student essay from a previous student. So you can see most of them took advantage of these additional resources that they could use in preparation for the assessment. So after one check-in form on the next assessment, and remember, this was my lowest performing class, Class A, you can see they got a 76.1%. And if I combine my other classes, 74.7%. So you can see Class A increased 8.4% from their average on the first three CFAs in the year. And Class A actually outperformed my other classes by 1.4% when they were severely underperforming in the first quarter. So right away, there was an instant academic impact using just this quick little check-in form with the questions that I just showed you. A cool thing, almost an unexpected and surprising layer of this, was I asked one question at the end of the check-in form. And while I did create these check-in forms to help academically, I thought it was a cool opportunity to just check in with my students. Maybe they weren't comfortable saying something out loud or something like that. So here was the question. Just talk to me for a minute. How is school? How is life? Is there anything else I can do to help you? And this was the surprising part, because here's some of the answers I got. School's I'm struggling with some of my classes, but life is hard, going through a lot at home right now. I don't know how you could help me, but I'm not really in search of any help. So a lot of honesty there. School is good, and my life outside of school is pretty good. Although over Thanksgiving break, my grandma passed away, but my family's been there, so I'm doing okay at the moment. So I learned my students' grandmother just recently passed away. Estoy muy bien. So I got a little Spanish there. School's okay, but home is tough because my family's having a hard time. I was in a relationship that fell apart and been fixing it ever since. So this student's going through some rough times. Everything's okay. General stress involving grades and home life, but it's not bad. I think you're already doing a good job at helping by making your class chill and enjoyable. I don't know if I like the chill part. First, I would like to say that I do not mind writing, but that I am a slow writer. I will be nervous that I cannot finish it in time. School has been good, and I've been able to paint more. So I like the honesty there about writing. And then my favorite, no, I'm chill. So that was an interesting one. So this was surprising, not in the sense like the no, I'm chill is kind of expected, but through all the check-in forms I've done since I started this, I've been surprised at all the things I've learned about my students, and I've been able to actually offer some like social emotional learning activities and just getting some background information to be able to check in on them and do some things. That's been kind of the coolest component of this to go along with the academic piece. All right, let's go to the next assessment. So I'll kind of go through this because you saw how it worked. These are the questions from my second check-in form, which was over a quiz over theme and symbolism. So you can see a lot of them, 93.3%, said they did understand the skills before they took the quiz. They felt pretty confident in their ability to write a thematic statement. They had to do that on that CFA. Which of the following resources will they use? The majority of them are using, you can see I gained a couple kids in this class too. They're using the preparation guide and a checklist as they take it. The majority of them are. Would you like me to request you for prime time? 40% said yes, they would. So they got a little additional help in school. Would you like me to email you any of these additional resources? Yes, a lot of them wanted a preview of the text, and some of them wanted example thematic statements. The majority of them wanted example thematic statements. So again, take a look at this. This is cool. This was only the second check-in form, and they were the only class to go above 80%, and they had an 83.7% average. Classes B through E combined, 77.1%. So how cool is that? And by the second check-in form, this class had the highest proficiency when they were the lowest class in my first quarter, and they maintained it for the rest of this school year so far. So Class A demonstrated the most growth and the highest proficiency on this assessment. It was only the second assessment that they received the check-in form before they completed the assessment. So really, really cool to see a number that high that soon. At the end of this form, I asked a similar question. So you can see each time they're very similar, but again, I liked this kind of checking in, building relationships, social emotional piece. And so I asked them, do you have any plans for holiday break? Because this was right before Christmas. Are you involved with anything in the school or community right now? Anything else I can do to help you? Here's some of the answers. I'm going to go work out and go for runs, just trying to better myself. I also plan on attending soccer workouts, so I have a lot to look forward to for Christmas break. I'm going to my grandparents' house in Sylvania near Toledo, but I think that's it, and maybe hang out with my girlfriend, but depends on what happens in court Thursday. Wish me luck, but hopefully I have a decent break. Good to know my student was going into court on that Thursday. I don't know what I'm doing for break. I'm involved in ski club so far, but no other sports has come up. All I need help with is the thematic statements, so that student got some extra help with those. I'm going to a Travis Scott concert today, and nope, I'm all bueno. There's the Spanish returning. For holiday break, I'll be spending time with my brother that gets back for a while from the Army, and I'll be doing stuff with the family. And then my favorite, no, no, and no. So again, those ones are kind of expected. But again, I learned so much about my students. A student going to court, where they're going for break, how family life is, all these different things, which is just a bonus piece to really the academic progress that came from these check-in forms. So just recently, we have our state test coming up. These are sophomore English. The state test is when they're a sophomore, they have to take it in English. And so we took our last CFA of the year. It was CFA 8, and it was expository writing. They have an expository essay on their upcoming test. And it was our low point on the state practice test. In fact, this period, Class A, scored a 4.33 out of 10. It was low, way, way lower than the argumentative essay. And so we've worked so hard on it the past couple weeks. And then we just took CFA number 8, and they grew over, that's the equivalent of about 21% from where they were on our first state practice test in expository writing. And so we did a little celebration in class where we shouted out any student who grew at least 20% from their previous essay, and then a special shout out for the highest growth in the class, and then we celebrated as a class 2 because they demonstrated phenomenal growth. And again, they got to do the check-in form before all of this growth happened. So Class A not only went up to the point where they were the leading class after being the worst by the second check-in form, they maintained it here until right before we're about to take our state test in English 10 next week. So that just really great stuff. So here are my conclusions from offering my students this Google check-in form. It took just 2 check-in forms from Class A to go from the lowest performing class to my class with the highest growth and proficiency. And as I mentioned, they maintained. And I've built great relationships with Class A and offer opportunities for social emotional learning based on information that I gained from these check-in forms. So where am I going to go from here? So A, I'm going to start to do this with all of my classes next year. Like, I made them keep it a secret because like they're seeing all this growth, and I feel kind of bad because like it's not that my other classes are falling behind, but they're not accelerating in growth at the same rate because for research purposes I needed to do that. But I'm definitely going to do this with every one of my classes next year. And we have a ceremony coming up where we're going to celebrate the kids with the highest. We're going to have pizza, and we're going to celebrate the kids with the highest growth in the class. And they're going to get like these little medals and trophies and stuff. So we're going to have like a big celebration. And I'm hoping the Cleveland State professor is going to come in and surprise them that worked with me on this form. And I think it'll be a really cool and exciting day for Class A to celebrate. I'm also going to go share my findings in Denver this summer. So if you want to come to Denver, I'm going to Denver at the end of July. I'm going to Red Rocks to watch a concert. And it's the National Teacher Leadership Summit in Denver, July. I think mine's on July 25th is the day I'm presenting. But I'll be there for about 4 days. And I'm going to help teachers out there. I'm going to share my results and help them build their own check-in forms for students in their own classrooms. And I'm excited to work with like teachers at different levels and different subjects to see what it would look like at the elementary level, because it would look different than the high school level, what it would look like in an art classroom, and across all the different grade levels and subjects. So I'm really excited to head out to Denver. I would also love all Port Clinton teachers to do this too. I can show you and share the excitement of how well it works, and I can help you build a check-in form that works for your students. So if you are interested in that, you can find me at the high school. You can shoot me an email if you're interested. And it took me, honestly, each time, once I built the first one, which took me maybe 15 to 20 minutes to do, all I do is copy it and just change some things based on the next assessment that they're going to take. And so it maybe takes me 5 minutes to edit it before each one. So it is not a big time commitment, and you get some exciting results from it. It is definitely worth it. So that is my story about how Class A went from worst to first in just a matter of a couple check-in forms, and it also helped me build relationships. And so, Chelsea, I don't know if you have anything else to say.
Yeah, actually, that's really cool. I'm also kind of nerdy about data stuff, but my data is usually like numbers and usage and that kind of stuff. Like this is cool to see how kids are like improving. What is like the students' feedback on this kind of check-in?
So they love it. I will tell you that the fact that they're saying things so honestly in that last question, that was surprising to me. And so on each one, I only have about 2 students who are always like, no, I'm fine, leave me alone. The majority of them are like, oh, this happened to me last weekend, and this is going on in my life. So it kind of opens them up to be honest and straightforward. And then I can like say something after class, like, hey, I'm so sorry, I heard this happened, and things that they wouldn't tell you in person, I think. Yeah. And so that was the surprising piece. But I think they feel like too, because I'm only doing it with the one class this year, they feel like it's like a secret and they're like getting an advantage. So it's kind of fun. So I'm gonna have to kind of find a way to if I'm doing it for all students next year, keep that like mysterious, like I'm getting a leg up component to it.
Yeah.
But they love it. I think they love it.
Yeah. And then I'm wondering, so it seems like you're providing resources to them. How do you organize that? Is that like a Google Classroom kind of thing?
So I wanted it to feel more personal than Google Classroom. So I actually email them. I kind of made a deal with them. Like, if I'm providing this, you're going to use it. And so I'm going to send it to you via email, and I BCC it, make it seem like it's coming like directly to them. But I send it to whoever requested it. And I like say, if I'm sending this to you, I better see that you actually used the resource and you used it to prepare. But I do it through email because I thought that would be a little bit different and more personal than doing it through Google Classroom.
Yeah, I like it. That's kind of cool. And it's really working, but it doesn't seem like it's anything too like complex or very hard to do. Like I think that's really, really cool.
It's honestly, when he suggested it, Dr. Bobach from Cleveland State, I was like, because this is like an action research project, and I was like, that seems too like simple. Like, how are we going to get enough data? And he was like, you'll be surprised. And he was kind of right, because I as simple as it is and as little of a time commitment as it is for me, I think the results don't lie. For a class to jump that much that fast, it gave them an opportunity to ask for more resources, to ask for extra help during prime time. And I think the majority of students wouldn't do that to your face in person, as good of a relationship as you build with them. And so it gave them an opportunity, and I think they took advantage of it.
Yeah, I love it. And I think one thing that's hard for kids is like how do you prepare for something? How do you study? How do you know if you're ready? And this is kind of like scaffolding them to that. So that's really cool as well.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Again, everybody reach out to Joe Miller. If you just start typing his name in your email, his email will pop up, and I'm sure he'd be more than happy to help you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. I'm gonna stop.